Yes, students, good morning. Let us start the discussion on today's newspaper, that is 19th January 2018. The first article, Supreme Court stays ban on screening of Padmavati. Right. So previously it was Padmavati, now it was converted into Padmavati. Any of the movie is a form of expression of thought. So the movie making is an expression of free speech and thought which is protected under our constitution under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. So there are certain reasonable restrictions with regard to Article 19(1)(a). Here, for the regulation of the movies, we have Censor Board for Film Certification, that is CBFC. Once the CBFC certifies a film, then it is for exhibition. And no fringe groups shall be able to regulate the exhibition of that particular movie. And state has a responsibility to protect the freedom of speech and expression, so it has to ensure the free exhibition of such a movie. Here there are two aberrations which have happened. One, at the CBFC level, it has constituted a committee that consists of the representatives of Rajput community to certify that particular film or to express their views about that particular film. So, the CBFC is said to have overstepped its role in forming this particular committee because the freedom of speech was given to individuals, and a group cannot hijack the freedom of speech of an individual. But on the counter to this, we can state that freedom of speech of one individual ends where the freedom of speech of other individuals starts. So, in this scenario, hurting of the group sentiments, a filmmaker also has to be sensitive to. So, remember the carry home point carefully. The fundamental rights are given to the individuals. The fundamental rights to the communities are only related to the cultural and minority rights with regard to the cultural practices. So, the freedom of speech and its protection is the responsibility of the state, and the state cannot hide under the cover of protection of law and order. So, the states Gujarat, Haryana, and Rajasthan banning this particular movie, citing the law and order problems may arise, is kind of hiding of the state. And second aspect is the state has the sovereign power. It need not get threatened by the fringe groups which tries to stop this. So, as a sovereign power, if it is succumbing to these pressures, that shows the weakness of the state. These are the points we need to understand in the context of the Padmavat. Cooperative federalism is partially in vogue, says K. Chandrasekhar Rao. So, cooperative federalism between center and the states, it was the vision of Prime Minister Modi. So, increased transfers under the 14th Finance Commission recommendations, appointment of Niti Ayog, all these are the steps towards cooperative federalism. Recently, Interstate Council was constituted. But the states still demand for more. What are the demands of the states? With regard to the vertical transfers, that is from the center to the states, whatever the vertical transfers have to be made, they want them to be raised to more than 50%. As of now, they are 42%. As already the center has increased, the transfers to the states from the divisible pool from 32 to 42%, then the relative share of money which is available with the states have come, with the center has come down. So that's why center has reduced the expenditure on the central sponsored schemes. Now states cite this as a loss of revenue for these central sponsored schemes. And with regard to central sponsored schemes, the lack of flexibility, that is the major complaint of the states. So these need to be changed to provide for the greater flexibility and also to bring in cooperative federalism. That's what Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao is talking about. Now, let's come to the editorial page. Failures of inference. So, this is a complex article. There is something called as understanding an issue in its miniature form, rather than understanding the holistic view of the issue. Today, liberalism is trying to see the changes in the Europe and US as simply a kind of populism. So, liberalism is failing to comprehend the reasons why such a behavior or populism is taking shape. The growth of right wing in United States and European countries is simply stated as a misuse of the fears of immigration, etc., which are created in the minds of the natives. So, in this context, the liberals are supposed to create an alternative narrative. Rather than creating alternative narrative, they simply agree that the people are being manipulated or misused to the advantage of few politicians, and they call this as a populistic overtures taken by the politicians to their advantage. So that simple narrative is not going to be helpful. The liberalism has to stand to the changes that are happening around. That's what is the essence of this article. So, and it is most of the article is verbatim. Try to be careful in reading this article. If I am in your place, I try to avoid this article. Towards solar powered agriculture. So the solar power is becoming important, and we have the targets by 2022 to achieve the solar installations. And National Solar Alliance is also established. How can we use this solar power within agriculture is the question. So the farmers are the customers. And India, the small and marginal farmers are high. Unless this has been accepted by them, it will not be successful. So that's why first demonstrate the technology to them, and then provide these particular motor pumps to the community usage, and give it for or make them suitable for the marginal farmers, and after that incentivize them, that is provide them with the necessary subsidies to buy them. So if you take these kind of measures, the solar power and its importance and its usage in agriculture can be increased. That's what this article talks about. Dual duty. This article is written in the context of Padmavat. What this article essentially says is this: the state has a dual responsibility to protect law and order and also to preserve the freedom of speech and expression of individuals. This is a constitutional guaranteed right. Preservation of law and order is part of the bargain between the state and the citizen. It is part of the social contract between them. So the state cannot relegate this responsibility. And from time to time, it is also clearly stated that the movie is an expression of one's freedom of speech under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. And the state need not surrender its responsibilities to the voice of certain few fringe groups. That's how we can state it as. And then three states. So in Tripura, Nagaland, and Meghalaya, the elections are about to come. So there is peculiar situation which is happening in these states now. If you take Tripura, so BJP has replaced the Congress as the major opposition now. The Communist Party is in power for long. And health education in these indices, the state is doing remarkably well. But when you go to the other aspects with regard to the diversification of economy and also unemployment, the state is not on the right path. So that's why an alternative forces are trying to sneak into Tripura. And coming to Nagaland, the strength of the Nagaland is the strong civil society. And the civil society groups are under one banner that is called Naga Ho Ho. And this Naga Ho Ho has boycotted the elections this year. And second is, providing for the reservations for women in urban local bodies have recently become controversial there. And the framework agreement, Naga's framework agreement with Union, it is not yet revealed, though it has become, and to an extent, controversial as based on the information which has come up in the newspapers. And then Meghalaya, so lack of strong opposition and Congress trying to retain its power under the banner that the government is stable. These are the various political situations that are existing in these northeastern states. Should the four Supreme Court judges have dissented publicly? Now, I already told to you my opinion on this issue. Rather than the mode of dissent, purpose or substance of the dissent has to be given more space for discussion. And second aspect is, judges, they came into open as a measure of last resort when all the other approaches for them have failed. Impartiality of functioning of judiciary is important for a democratic structure. So when impartiality is essential, then obviously the Chief Justice of India and his office is arbitrary. It is the responsibility, or it is the nation shall know it as a matter of right. That's what one way we can argue as. Counter to this argument can go this way. Yes, if judges comes open and speak from the highest court, that sends a bad precedent across the judiciary. The rank and file will be divided. Tomorrow, any dissenting judge across the high courts, they may come into open and the discipline will get into jeopardy. And judicial integrity is essential for the confidence of the people in the functioning of judiciary. If the doubts are cast on the judicial functioning itself, judiciary which was given the responsibility to protect the rights of the citizens will also be in jeopardy. So these things we need to keep in mind as both sides of the arguments. Bitcoin's rally may be over. Cryptocurrencies. So they are rapidly falling now. So already I have told to you that whatever the rise in the value of the Bitcoins, it is not based on its core value, but it is based on speculation. Let us see that how this speculation goes on. Let me put it this way. The Bitcoin is not recognized as a medium of exchange officially. And central banks they are not willing to allow the bitcoins to replace the existing regulatory structure. And other aspect of the bitcoins is any value of a currency determined on the basis of the underlying value of it, what you can buy with it. So Bitcoin is not accepted as a medium of exchange, then there is no underlying value. Obviously, the doom of the Bitcoin is expected. This kind of loss is expected from its functioning. Now, let's come to the news page. China's rise a big disruption, says Jaishankar. So Raisana dialogue is going on, and the balance of power is shifting away from Atlanto-Pacific to the Indo-Pacific. And the China emerging as one of the big player, it has provided certain goods and bads, but it has disrupted the existing world order. So China's rise, it has opened up the shift of power or balance of power in which India is also trying its space in. And second aspect, the China's rise in Asia, it has provided for regular disturbance to the regular balance of power. And in response to this, a quad was formed. This quad consists of India, Australia, Japan, and United States of America. So, the rise of China is a big disruption. That's what is the Jaishankar statement over here is. And then, BJP open to tie-ups in Nagaland. That's more a political news. And Pakistan diplomats funded Jammu and Kashmir unrest. So this is the statement, though stated by the NGOs, it is coming probably from the government itself. That's how we can see it as. Electoral bonds won't solve all issues. With regard to this, let us see. If we want to eliminate the role of unaccounted money in elections, we have to change the source of money or the form of money, or we need to monitor the end use of money. So in the form of money, the cash has to be replaced by bank transactions that are verifiable. So the electoral bonds are trying to change the form of donations that are reaching to political parties, where cash will be replaced by electoral bonds. That's the point we need to understand. In the last page, I gave you the notes that will be available to you at laix.in/civilsprep. Thank you very much and all the best.